The family celebration. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and the sun shone brightly over the Johnson family's backyard. The smell of grilled burgers and hot dogs filled the air, making everyone's mouth water. It was a special day for the Johnsons. Their son, Tyler, had just graduated from high school, and they wanted to celebrate this important milestone with a big barbecue. The whole family had worked hard to make this day memorable. The backyard was filled with colorful decorations. Balloons floated in the gentle breeze, and a large banner that read "Congratulations, Tyler," hung proudly above the grill. Family members arrived one by one, bringing dishes to share. There were platters of homemade potato salad, bowls of fresh fruit, and a large cake with bright blue icing. Laughter and excitement filled the space as relatives hugged and congratulated Tyler. Tyler stood in the middle of it all, a huge smile on his face. He wore a new shirt with his school's logo and held his graduation cap in one hand. His parents, James and Michelle, stood beside him, beaming with pride. They remembered how hard Tyler had worked all year, studying late into the night and attending extra classes. They wanted this celebration to be perfect. As guests filled the yard, children ran around, playing games and laughing. Some played tag, while others tossed a frisbee back and forth. The sound of joy echoed throughout the neighborhood. James flipped burgers on a grill, skillfully managing the heat. He called out to Tyler, "Hey buddy, grab the drinks from the cooler." Tyler raced to do as he was told, feeling the thrill of being the center of attention. As the afternoon wore on, the family sat around a long table filled with food. They shared stories about Tyler's childhood, his funny moments, and his dreams for the future. Everyone listened intently, laughing and clapping as each memory was shared. Michelle took a moment to look around, feeling grateful for the warmth and love surrounding her family. This is what it's all about, she thought. However, not everyone in the neighborhood felt the same way. Across the street, Mr. Thompson, an older neighbor with a stern face, watched the festivities from his porch. He squinted his eyes, annoyed by the noise. "What is all that ruckus?" he muttered to himself. He had never been fond of large gatherings, especially when they disrupted his quiet afternoon. His face twisted in displeasure as he saw the children running and playing. Feeling irritated, Mr. Thompson decided to take action. He picked up his phone and dialed the police. "There's a loud barbecue party going on across the street," he complained. "It's too noisy, and it's really bothering me." He hung up the phone, satisfied that he had done something about the situation. Back at the Johnsons' barbecue, the laughter continued. Tyler opened gifts from his family. He unwrapped a shiny new bicycle from his grandparents and a set of art supplies from his aunt and uncle. Each gift was met with cheers and applause. Tyler felt grateful for the love and support of his family. "Can you believe I'll be going to college next year?" Tyler said, looking around at his family. Everyone shouted their congratulations, and he felt the excitement in the air. It was a day to remember, filled with hope and dreams for the future. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the yard, the family gathered for a group photo. They all squeezed together, big smiles on their faces, with Tyler holding his diploma proudly. Just then, the sound of sirens pierced the joyful atmosphere. The family turned their heads, confused. "What's that?" Michelle asked, her brow furrowed with concern. James glanced toward the street and saw police cars pulling up to their driveway. "I don't know," he replied, a sense of unease creeping in. The laughter faded as the officers stepped out of their cars. The joyous celebration was about to take an unexpected turn. The guests looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Tyler's heart raced as he wondered if something had gone wrong. Had they done something illegal by having a barbecue? He felt a knot in his stomach as the officers approached. "Is everything okay?" Tyler's cousin asked, her voice shaking slightly. Just then, James stepped forward to greet the officers, determined to find out what was happening. The atmosphere shifted, and everyone waited with bated breath, unsure of how the situation would unfold. The tension in the air was thick, and the joyful celebration now felt uncertain. In that moment, the family's day of celebration suddenly felt at risk. They had worked so hard to create a perfect memory. And now, with the police in front of them, everything seemed to hang in the balance. Little did they know that this unexpected visit would lead to an incredible twist, one that would forever change their neighborhood and their understanding of community. As they waited for the officers to speak, the backyard fell silent. The joyous atmosphere was replaced by a heavy sense of anticipation. The Johnsons had no idea how their celebration would turn out, but they were ready to face whatever came next together. The unexpected visitor. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the Johnson family's backyard. The laughter that had filled the air moments ago had turned into whispers of confusion as the police officers approached. James stood tall, determined to confront the situation with calmness. He knew the importance of this day, not just for Tyler, but for the entire family. The lead officer, a tall woman with kind eyes, introduced herself. "Good evening, sir. I'm Officer Sanchez. We received a complaint about noise coming from this address." Her voice was firm but not unfriendly. The other officer, a younger man, stood beside her, scanning the backyard filled with decorations and happy faces. James took a deep breath and replied, "We're just celebrating my son's graduation. It's a special occasion, and we didn't mean to disturb anyone." He gestured toward Tyler, who stood frozen near the grill, his smile fading as he sensed the tension. "I understand, but we still have to follow up on any complaints we receive," Officer Sanchez said. "Is there a way you can lower the volume?" James nodded, feeling the heat rising in his cheeks. "Of course, we can do that. We'll keep it down." He felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. They had worked so hard to create a joyful celebration, and now it felt like they were being scolded. Tyler's heart raced as he listened to the conversation. He felt a mix of emotions: anger, confusion, and disappointment. His graduation day was turning into something he never expected. He watched as guests exchanged worried glances, and the joy of the day began to fade. At that moment, Tyler's younger sister, Mia, who had been quietly playing with her cousins, looked up at the officers with wide eyes. She stepped forward, holding her toy in her tiny hands. "But it's a party. We're celebrating." Her innocent voice cut through the tension, reminding everyone of the day's purpose. The officers exchanged glances, and a hint of a smile crossed Officer Sanchez's face. "I understand, young lady. Celebrations are important, but we still have to consider everyone in the neighborhood." Just then, a car pulled up, and out stepped a man in a crisp police uniform. Everyone's eyes widened as they recognized him. It was Chief Williams, the new police chief, and he was James's old friend. Tyler's heart sank when he saw the chief approaching, unsure of what this would mean. "James," Chief Williams called, a broad smile on his face as he walked toward them. "I heard you were having a barbecue. Mind if I join?" James couldn't believe his eyes. "Chief Williams, what are you doing here?" He felt a mix of relief and confusion. "I was in the area and thought I'd check in," the chief said, still smiling. He turned to Officer Sanchez. "What's going on?" "We received a noise complaint, Chief," Officer Sanchez explained. "But they were just celebrating the graduation." The chief looked at the Johnson family, then back at the officers. "Is that so? This is a big day for them. We can't let a little noise ruin a celebration. Let's make sure we're supporting our community." James felt a weight lift off his shoulders. "Thank you, Chief. We're really just trying to celebrate Tyler's hard work." The chief turned to Tyler, his face lighting up. "Congratulations, young man. Graduation is a big deal. I remember my own like it was yesterday." Tyler felt a rush of pride at being recognized by someone so important. "Thank you, Chief," he replied, a smile slowly returning to his face. Mia tugged at James's sleeve, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Can the chief stay for the party, Dad?" she asked, hopeful. "Of course," Chief Williams said, kneeling down to Mia's level. "I'd love to join the celebration. Maybe I can even help with the grilling." The tension that had filled the air moments before began to dissipate. Laughter broke out as guests welcomed the chief, inviting him to join their barbecue. Officer Sanchez nodded in agreement, realizing that sometimes a little noise was a sign of community spirit. As the chief grabbed an apron and helped James at the grill, the atmosphere shifted back to one of joy. The guests began to relax, and the sounds of laughter and conversation filled the yard once more. Tyler felt the warmth of the celebration returning, and his heart swelled with happiness. "Let's turn this into a neighborhood celebration," Chief Williams declared, flipping burgers with a smile. "Everyone's welcome." People began to gather around, some bringing side dishes, while others shared stories and laughter. The Johnsons felt a sense of unity with their neighbors. It was a moment of connection, and they realized that despite the initial conflict, the police were there to support their community. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the gathering, Tyler stood with his family, watching everything unfold. He couldn't believe how quickly the day had changed. What had started as a worry about noise had transformed into a neighborhood party filled with laughter and friendship. Little did they know that this celebration would strengthen the bond within their community, reminding everyone that coming together in joy was far more powerful than the differences that sometimes separated them. Tyler felt grateful, not just for his graduation, but for the support and love of his family and neighbors. As the evening wore on, the sounds of joy echoed in the air, and Tyler knew this was a day he would always remember, a day that brought people together and showed the strength of community. The power of community. As the evening deepened, the Johnson family's backyard was alive with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and the sizzling of burgers on the grill. Tyler felt a renewed sense of joy wash over him. His graduation celebration had shifted from a moment of tension to a beautiful gathering of friends and family, all united under the twinkling fairy lights strung across the yard. Chief Williams took the lead, joking with the guests as he flipped burgers and hot dogs. "Remember, folks, it's important to eat well to fuel those brains for the next big challenge." He laughed heartily, and everyone joined in, their spirits lifting with every chuckle. James stood beside him, grateful for his friend's support. "Thank you for coming, Chief. It really means a lot to us," he said, glancing around at the gathering. The neighbors mingled, sharing stories and laughter, proving that community could overcome any obstacle. Tyler moved through the crowd, soaking in the joy around him. He spotted Mia, surrounded by her cousins, her laughter ringing out as she played games with the other kids. They chased each other, their squeals echoing like music. It was a perfect sight, one that warmed Tyler's heart. Suddenly, a familiar face appeared at the edge of the yard. It was Mrs. Henderson, an elderly neighbor who lived a few houses down. She walked with a slight hunch, using a cane for support. Tyler remembered her from when he was little. She always had a kind word and a smile. "Hello, everyone," she called, her voice warm despite the effort it took to speak. "I brought some lemonade." The children cheered as she set down the pitcher, and Tyler rushed over to help her. "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. Would you like to sit down?" "That would be lovely, dear," she replied with a smile, her eyes twinkling. Tyler led her to a cozy spot under a tree where she could relax and enjoy the party. As they sat together, Tyler noticed her wrinkled hands shaking slightly. "Are you okay, Mrs. Henderson?" he asked, concerned. "Oh, just a bit tired, dear. But seeing all this joy makes me feel young again," she replied, her voice filled with warmth. Tyler felt a surge of appreciation for the way the community had come together. It was moments like these that reminded him of the strength they all shared. He looked around and saw families sharing food, children playing, and adults laughing together. It was a beautiful tapestry of life. Meanwhile, James and Chief Williams had moved from the grill to a nearby picnic table, deep in conversation. "I really appreciate what you did earlier, Chief," James said, grateful for his support. It's nice to see the police chief stepping in to help rather than just enforce rules. Chief Williams nodded, his expression serious for a moment. It's important to me that we build trust in our community. I want to show everyone that we're here to help, not to create fear. Events like this can break down barriers. James smiled, feeling a sense of pride. You're right. It's all about connection. Today was a perfect example of how we can come together. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Tyler gathered everyone around the grill. Hey, everyone, can I have your attention for a minute? He called out, feeling a rush of excitement. The guests turned their attention to him, curious. He could see the support in their eyes. Thank you all for coming. This day means so much to me, and I'm grateful for each one of you. Today isn't just about my graduation. It's about us as a community coming together to celebrate. Let's make this a new tradition. Cheers erupted from the crowd, and the atmosphere grew even more festive. The evening continued with music, dancing, and stories shared around the fire pit. Tyler felt a sense of belonging, a warmth that enveloped him. As the night deepened, the glow of the fairy lights danced around them, and Tyler took a moment to look around. Families were gathered, neighbors were sharing laughs, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of peace and unity. Just then, Mia ran over, her face beaming with joy. Tyler, can we do a dance competition? She exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Sure. Let's show everyone our moves. Tyler laughed, taking her hand as they ran to the center of the gathering. The crowd erupted in cheers as the siblings started their dance. They spun and twirled, laughter bubbling up as they tried to outdo each other with silly moves. The music played on, filling the air with joy. The chief joined them, attempting to keep up with the kids. All right, let's see some real moves, he called out, causing everyone to burst into laughter. The energy was infectious, and soon others joined in, dancing and celebrating together. As Tyler danced with his family and friends, he realized that this day was more than just a graduation. It was a celebration of love, unity, and the power of community. They had turned a potentially upsetting situation into a night filled with joy and connection. Underneath the stars, surrounded by laughter and love, Tyler knew this was a day he would cherish forever, a day that brought everyone together, proving that even in difficult times, community and compassion could shine brightly. The unexpected visitor. The party continued late into the night, the sounds of laughter and music filling the air. Tyler felt a deep sense of happiness as he enjoyed the company of friends and family. As the stars twinkled above, he could see his parents, James and Lisa, chatting animatedly with neighbors. Their smiles radiated warmth, showing how much they appreciated the support from everyone. Suddenly, the fun was interrupted when Tyler's phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw a message from his sister Mia. There's someone at the gate. It was an unusual time for visitors, and a sense of curiosity mixed with worry washed over him. He quickly typed back, "Who is it?" Mia replied, "I don't know. It looks like the neighbor from across the street." Feeling a mix of concern and curiosity, Tyler made his way through the crowd and headed toward the front yard. The music faded behind him, replaced by the sound of his heart beating in his chest. As he approached the gate, he saw a shadowy figure standing just outside. The figure was tall and somewhat intimidating, but as Tyler got closer, he recognized the face of Mr. Thompson, the man who lived across the street. Mr. Thompson had been quiet and reserved, rarely speaking to anyone in the neighborhood. The sight of him sent a ripple of unease through Tyler. Hi, Mr. Thompson. What brings you here?" Tyler called out, trying to keep his voice steady. Mr. Thompson shifted nervously, looking from side to side as if he were weighing his options. I heard the noise from my house and wanted to see what was going on. I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "No, not at all. We're celebrating my graduation," Tyler replied, attempting to sound cheerful. He could sense a tension in the air, and he hoped to ease it. "Oh, congratulations. Mr. Thompson muttered, his eyes darting toward the gathering. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry about earlier. About the noise complaint. Tyler raised an eyebrow, surprise. You mean about the barbecue? It was just a family gathering. Mr. Thompson shifted uncomfortably. I know, but sometimes it feels like, well, like there's too much going on. I'm not used to all the noise. Tyler felt a pang of sympathy for him. He understood that everyone had their reasons for reacting the way they did. We're just trying to celebrate, and I think you'd enjoy it too. Why don't you come in? He offered, hoping to bridge the gap. Mr. Thompson hesitated, looking unsure. I'm not really a party person, but I guess I could stay for a little while. Great. Let me get you a drink, Tyler said, leading him into the yard. As they walked together, Tyler could sense the tension easing, albeit slowly. When they reached the gathering, Tyler introduced Mr. Thompson to the guests. Everyone, this is Mr. Thompson, my neighbor. He wanted to join us for a bit. The guests greeted him with warm smiles and waves. Mia, always the cheerful one, rushed over. Hi, Mr. Thompson. We have lemonade, she exclaimed, holding out a cup. Thank you, young lady, he said, accepting the drink. His stern demeanor softened slightly as he took a sip. As the night wore on, Tyler noticed that Mr. Thompson seemed to relax a little. He began to engage in conversations, laughing at the jokes and even participating in a few games. Tyler felt a sense of relief. It was nice to see a different side of their neighbor. During a brief moment of quiet, Tyler noticed Chief Williams approaching Mr. Thompson. Hey, neighbor. I'm glad you could join us. It's nice to finally see you outside. Mr. Thompson glanced at the chief, his eyes widening slightly. Good to see you too, Chief, he stammered, clearly feeling the weight of the chief's presence. The chief smiled warmly, easing any lingering tension. It's important to me that we all feel safe and welcome in this community. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Tyler watched the two men speak, surprised at how Mr. Thompson seemed to open up. Actually, Chief, I've been meaning to talk to you about something. Mr. Thompson began hesitantly. I've noticed a lot of, issues in the neighborhood lately. I think we could all benefit from some community programs or meetings. That's a great idea, Chief Williams replied enthusiastically. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Let's work together to make our community even stronger. Tyler felt a surge of hope. Maybe this was the start of something good. He joined the conversation, sharing ideas about how they could improve their neighborhood and foster a stronger sense of community. As the night drew to a close, Tyler felt an overwhelming sense of unity among everyone present. Neighbors who had once kept to themselves were now connecting, sharing stories, and laughing together. It was heartening to witness the transformation, especially in Mr. Thompson. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as people began to wrap up their celebrations. I'm really glad you came, Mr. Thompson, Tyler said as the evening began to wind down. It was nice to finally meet you outside of the fence. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate the invitation, Mr. Thompson replied, a hint of a smile on his face. Maybe next time I won't be so quick to judge. Tyler nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. It was clear that the night had brought them all closer together. As the guests began to depart, he felt hopeful for what the future held for their community. The Johnson family had started their celebration in uncertainty, but they ended the night with a renewed sense of unity. They had not only celebrated Tyler's graduation, but had also taken a significant step toward healing the divide in their neighborhood. As Tyler said his goodbyes, he couldn't help but feel grateful for the connections made and the understanding reached. He looked forward to many more gatherings like this, filled with laughter, love, and the power of community. The tension escalates. The next morning, the sun shone brightly, filling the Johnson household with warmth and light. Tyler woke up feeling hopeful after the successful graduation party. He had high hopes for a more united neighborhood. As he stretched and got out of bed, He thought about the conversations from the previous night. It felt good to see Mr. Thompson laughing and mingling with everyone. Perhaps things were starting to change for the better. Tyler went downstairs to find his parents in the kitchen, making breakfast. The aroma of pancakes filled the air, and the atmosphere was cheerful. Lisa, his mother, looked up and smiled. "Good morning, birthday boy. How does it feel to be a graduate?" "It feels amazing, Mom," Tyler replied with a grin, pouring himself a glass of orange juice. "I can't believe I finally did it." James, his father, chimed in. "You made us proud, son. Just wait till the family finds out how you organized last night. They'll be talking about it for weeks." As they enjoyed their breakfast, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone was pleased with the gathering. The thought of Mr. Thompson's complaints the day before lingered in the back of his mind. He wondered if there would be any fallout from inviting him to the party. After breakfast, Tyler decided to head outside to enjoy the sunny day. He wanted to soak in the good vibes before preparing for his next adventure in college. As he stepped into the yard, he noticed a few neighbors walking by, chatting and laughing with each other. The atmosphere felt much lighter than before, and it brought a smile to his face. However, that smile quickly faded when he saw Mr. Thompson standing on his porch, arms crossed and looking stern. The sight was alarming, and Tyler felt his heart race. It looked like Mr. Thompson was waiting for him. "Hey, Mr. Thompson," Tyler called out, trying to sound casual. "How's it going?" Mr. Thompson did not respond right away. Instead, he glanced at the other neighbors who had started to gather around. "I need to talk to you, Tyler. Can we step over here?" He motioned for Tyler to come closer, his tone serious. Feeling a knot form in his stomach, Tyler followed Mr. Thompson to a quieter corner of the yard, away from prying eyes. "What's going on?" Tyler asked, trying to mask his anxiety. "I'm not sure if you noticed, but some people didn't appreciate the noise last night. It's been brought to my attention that I'm not the only one who has issues with loud gatherings in our neighborhood," Mr. Thompson replied, his voice low but firm. Tyler felt a mix of anger and confusion. But it was a celebration. We were just having fun. Why can't everyone just relax and enjoy life? Mr. Thompson shook his head. "It's not just about the fun. You have to understand that some people see gatherings like this as disruptive, and with everything that has happened in our community, people are on edge. I don't want to be the bad guy here, but I have to think about my family too." Tyler felt his frustration boiling over. "You were at the party. You saw how everyone connected. Isn't that what we need? Community." "Of course, but it needs to be done respectfully," Mr. Thompson insisted. "There's a line, and I think it was crossed last night." Before Tyler could respond, a familiar voice called out from behind them. "What's going on here?" It was Chief Williams, his presence immediately calming the situation. "Just having a friendly chat," Tyler replied, forcing a smile. "Mr. Thompson has some concerns about the noise." The chief nodded, looking between the two of them. "I understand that noise can be a problem, but remember, everyone has the right to enjoy their home. We can't let disagreements drive a wedge between us." Tyler appreciated the chief's mediation. "I get that, Chief, but I just want our neighborhood to feel like a community. That's all." Mr. Thompson sighed, his expression softening slightly. "I want that too, Tyler, but it has to be balanced." As the conversation continued, other neighbors began to gather around, curious about what was happening. Tyler felt the pressure rising. He needed to address the tension before it escalated further. "Listen, everyone," Tyler began, raising his voice just enough to be heard. "I know we all want what's best for our neighborhood. Let's have an open discussion. What do you think we can do to make it better for everyone?" A few neighbors nodded in agreement, while others exchanged glances. It was clear that some were still uncomfortable with the idea of large gatherings. But Tyler pressed on, hoping to build understanding. "Maybe we can establish some guidelines for future events. That way, everyone can have a say," he suggested, looking around the group. Chief Williams chimed in. "That's a great idea, Tyler. Open communication can help us all feel heard. Let's set up a neighborhood meeting next week to discuss this further. We can create a plan that works for everyone. Mr. Thompson crossed his arms, contemplating the idea. I suppose that could help. I just want to make sure we're all respecting each other's space. Slowly, the tension began to ease, and more neighbors started to join the conversation. Tyler felt relieved as the group began discussing possible solutions, throwing around ideas and compromises. As the discussions continued, Tyler realized that while challenges remained, they were taking positive steps toward understanding one another. He hoped that by addressing the issues openly, they could prevent any further misunderstandings in the future. But as the conversation continued, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone was on board. He noticed a few neighbors lingering at the back, whispering among themselves with frowns on their faces. The underlying tension was still present, and Tyler knew that some would likely resist any attempts at change. For now, though, Tyler remained hopeful. He felt proud of what they were building, a community willing to talk and listen, and even if the road ahead was bumpy, he believed they could navigate it together. The unexpected twist. The neighborhood meeting was set for the following week, and excitement filled the air. Tyler felt a mixture of nerves and anticipation. This was a chance for everyone to voice their opinions and come together as a community. He hoped that the previous tensions would not overshadow their efforts to find common ground. As the day approached, Tyler spent hours preparing for the meeting. He wanted to make sure he presented his ideas clearly and constructively. He created a list of potential guidelines for future gatherings, focusing on respectful noise levels and the importance of communication among neighbors. He shared the plan with his parents, who offered their support and encouragement. On the day of the meeting, the weather was perfect, sunny with a light breeze. Neighbors started arriving at the local community center, where Tyler had arranged the gathering. He could see both familiar faces and some who had stayed in the background during the previous discussions. Tyler greeted everyone as they entered, trying to create a warm and welcoming atmosphere. As the room filled with people, Tyler felt a surge of energy. He stood at the front, ready to lead the discussion. He took a deep breath, hoping that this meeting could be a turning point for their neighborhood. "Thank you all for coming today," Tyler began, smiling at the crowd. "I know there have been some concerns about gatherings in our community, and I believe this is a great opportunity for us to talk about it openly." As he explained his proposed guidelines, he noticed a few neighbors nodding in agreement, while others appeared skeptical. Tyler pushed forward, encouraging everyone to share their thoughts. "I believe we can find a way to have fun while respecting each other's needs," Tyler continued. "Let's discuss how we can keep the noise down during future events, maybe by setting a time limit for gatherings. We could also use a neighborhood group chat to communicate ahead of time." As he spoke, Mr. Thompson raised his hand, and the room quieted. "I appreciate your efforts, Tyler," he said, "but I still worry about how loud these gatherings can get. It's not just the noise. It's about feeling comfortable in our own homes." Tyler nodded. "I understand, Mr. Thompson. Maybe we can come up with a noise-level guideline that everyone agrees on. If we work together, we can make this work." But before the conversation could deepen, a neighbor from the back, Mrs. Jenkins, spoke up, her voice tense. "I don't see why we need to change anything. The way things were before was just fine. Why should we cater to those who want to party all night?" A murmur of agreement rippled through a few other neighbors. Tyler felt his heart sink. It was becoming clear that not everyone was on board with the idea of change. "Mrs. Jenkins," Tyler said carefully, "we're not trying to take away anyone's enjoyment. We just want to make sure that everyone feels safe and respected. This is about finding balance." But Mrs. Jenkins crossed her arms, her expression firm. Balance, or a compromise that leans too much toward those who want to make noise. The tension in the room grew, and Tyler could feel the atmosphere shift. Some neighbors began to whisper among themselves, clearly divided on the issue. He could sense the frustration building. "I think what we need is to be more understanding of each other's needs." Chief Williams intervened, trying to restore order. This is about community. We can't let a few disagreements tear us apart. But Tyler could see that the division was deepening. He felt a wave of disappointment wash over him. All his efforts to create unity seemed to be slipping away. Just as he was about to speak again, a loud voice boomed from the back of the room. "I can't believe we're even having this discussion." It was Mr. Harris, a neighbor known for his outspoken nature. "This is ridiculous. I didn't sign up for a neighborhood full of noise complaints and rules. If you don't want to hear noise, move somewhere quiet." The room erupted in whispers, and Tyler's heart raced. He hadn't expected such hostility. This was supposed to be a chance for unity, but it was turning into a battleground. "Everyone, please," Tyler called out, raising his hands to calm the crowd. "We're all here because we care about our neighborhood. Let's focus on solutions, not arguments." As the noise quieted, Tyler took a moment to collect his thoughts. What if we had designated days for larger gatherings? That way, people who want to celebrate can, but those who prefer quieter nights can plan accordingly. There were murmurs of consideration, but Mrs. Jenkins shook her head. "That sounds too much like a compromise that gives more power to those who want to party." Tyler felt the frustration boiling within him. This isn't about power. It's about community. We need to respect each other, or we'll never move forward. Just as the discussion seemed to reach an impasse, Chief Williams spoke again, his tone firm. "We can't let fear and anger rule our neighborhood. If we keep fighting, we lose sight of what matters: our community and our relationships. We need to work together." His words hung in the air, and Tyler could see a flicker of understanding in some of the neighbors' eyes. Perhaps the chief's authority could help steer the conversation back to a more positive place. After a few moments of silence, Mr. Thompson spoke up. "I see both sides, but I think we need to be honest. Our neighborhood can thrive if we let it. Maybe we can set some boundaries that allow for gatherings, while still respecting those who need quiet time." Tyler seized the opportunity. "Exactly. Let's find a way to establish a set of guidelines that work for everyone, ensuring we respect each other's needs." Slowly, the atmosphere in the room began to shift. As neighbors started to share their thoughts constructively, Tyler felt hope returning. Although there were still challenges to face, it seemed they were finally beginning to understand the value of communication. But just as the conversation was beginning to stabilize, a loud crash echoed from outside, drawing everyone's attention. Curious eyes turned toward the door, and Tyler's heart sank. He couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was lurking just outside their meeting. Unity amidst chaos. As the loud crash echoed through the community center, a hush fell over the room. Tyler's heart raced as he exchanged worried glances with his parents. What could have happened? His mind was racing with possible scenarios, each more alarming than the last. Chief Williams stepped forward, his authoritative presence calming the crowd. "Everyone, stay seated. I'll check what happened," he said, his voice steady. He motioned for a few volunteers to follow him outside, and Tyler's father was among them. As the group exited, murmurs filled the room. People leaned closer to one another, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. Tyler tried to focus on the discussion at hand, but the uncertainty gnawed at him. "What do you think it was?" whispered his friend, Sam, who had come to support Tyler. "Do you think someone got hurt?" Tyler shrugged, his eyes glued to the door. "I don't know, but I hope everyone's okay." Moments later, the chief returned, his face serious but composed. "Everyone, please listen," he said, raising his hands to quiet the crowd. "There was an accident outside. A car lost control and hit a mailbox. Fortunately, no one was injured, but we need to be aware that these things can happen when we're distracted." The room erupted into whispers again, but this time, the tone was different. Concern washed over the neighbors as they realized how quickly chaos could unfold in their community. "Let's refocus on what we were discussing," Chief Williams continued. "This incident reminds us of the importance of looking out for one another, not just during celebrations, but every day. We're all part of this neighborhood, and it's our responsibility to ensure it's a safe place for everyone. Tyler felt a surge of determination. "This is what I've been trying to say," he interjected, his voice firm. "We need to come together and create an environment where we can enjoy our lives without worrying about accidents or conflicts. We can do that by having open conversations and being respectful of each other's needs." Mrs. Jenkins, who had been quiet since the crash, finally spoke up. "I didn't think of it that way. I guess we've all been too focused on our own frustrations," she admitted, glancing around the room. "Maybe we need to find a way to connect more, rather than just arguing about our differences." "That's a good point," Tyler replied, encouraged by her openness. "Perhaps we could organize neighborhood watch days where we can all participate and make sure everyone is safe. It can be a fun way to get to know each other better." A few neighbors nodded in agreement, and Tyler felt a glimmer of hope. This was the direction he had wanted all along. If they could turn the tension into teamwork, they might be able to create a strong sense of community. "I think a neighborhood event like that would be great," Mr. Thompson chimed in. "It can be a way to build relationships and show we care about each other's safety." Just then, Chief Williams leaned forward, an idea sparking in his eyes. "How about we combine that with our next neighborhood barbecue? We can make it a community day, safety awareness, and celebration in one." Tyler's heart raced. "That's perfect. We can use that day to set guidelines for future gatherings, making sure everyone is included in the conversation." A renewed sense of excitement filled the room. Neighbors began to talk among themselves, brainstorming ideas and sharing thoughts on how to make the event successful. It felt like they were finally moving towards a solution. As the meeting continued, Tyler couldn't help but feel proud of what they were accomplishing. The initial tension had transformed into a collaborative spirit, and he could see people genuinely trying to understand one another. However, amidst the positive energy, a sudden shout interrupted the flow. A voice from outside rang clear. "Hey, what's going on here? You can't just have a meeting without inviting everyone." Tyler's heart sank again. Who was this? He turned to the crowd, confused. The door swung open, revealing a group of young adults, looking irritated. One of them stepped forward, a young man with a determined look in his eyes. "What's all this talk about rules and guidelines?" he challenged. "We're not going to let you guys dictate how we enjoy our lives." The tension in the room shifted again as the crowd fell silent. Tyler could sense the unease creeping back in. But this time, he was ready to respond. "We're not trying to dictate anything," Tyler replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable and respected. This is about working together to make our neighborhood better for all of us." The young man scoffed, crossing his arms. "It sounds like you're just trying to silence people who want to have fun. We won't let that happen." As murmurs of agreement rose from his friends, Tyler felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. This was the challenge he had anticipated, finding a way to bridge the gap between differing viewpoints. "Look," Tyler said, his voice rising above the noise. "We're all neighbors here. No one wants to ruin anyone's fun. We just want to create a space where everyone feels safe. We all have a right to enjoy our homes without fear of conflict. Can't we at least try to talk about this?" The young man paused, seeming to reconsider. The room was tense, waiting for his response. Tyler could see the conflict in his eyes, and he hoped that with one more chance, they could turn this moment around. Finally, the young man spoke, his tone softer this time. "I get where you're coming from. Maybe we can talk about how to make sure everyone has a voice." With a tentative nod from the young man, Tyler felt a wave of relief wash over him. Perhaps they were finally finding a way forward, a way that included everyone. As the meeting resumed, Tyler knew this was just the beginning of a long journey towards building a stronger community. But in that moment, surrounded by neighbors who were willing to listen and share, he felt a glimmer of hope that together, they could turn their challenges into opportunities for connection and understanding. "What's all this talk about rules and guidelines?" he challenged. "We're not going to let you guys dictate how we enjoy our lives." The tension in the room shifted again as the crowd fell silent. Tyler could sense the unease creeping back in, but this time, he was ready to respond. "We're not trying to dictate anything," Tyler replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable and respected. This is about working together to make our neighborhood better for all of us." The young man scoffed, crossing his arms. "It sounds like you're just trying to silence people who want to have fun. We won't let that happen." As murmurs of agreement rose from his friends, Tyler felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. This was the challenge he had anticipated, finding a way to bridge the gap between differing viewpoints. "Look," Tyler said, his voice rising above the noise. "We're all neighbors here. No one wants to ruin anyone's fun. We just want to create a space where everyone feels safe. We all have a right to enjoy our homes without fear of conflict. Can't we at least try to talk about this?" The young man paused, seeming to reconsider. The room was tense, waiting for his response. Tyler could see the conflict in his eyes, and he hoped that with one more chance, they could turn this moment around. Finally, the young man spoke, his tone softer this time. "I get where you're coming from. Maybe we can talk about how to make sure everyone has a voice." With a tentative nod from the young man, Tyler felt a wave of relief wash over him. Perhaps they were finally finding a way forward, a way that included everyone. As the meeting resumed, Tyler knew this was just the beginning of a long journey towards building a stronger community. But in that moment, surrounded by neighbors who were willing to listen and share, he felt a glimmer of hope that together, they could turn their challenges into opportunities for connection and understanding.